Katie is out today. The P. Diddy case gets darker and darker, including a story just recently accusing Diddy of blackmailing Cassie's parents. And Cassie's parents were so scared of Diddy, according to testimony, that they mortgaged their home to pay Diddy off.
I'm confused because why are they blackmailing and why Cassie was his girlfriend?
And at the time, I think this when she went off with Kid Cudi, and Diddy was upset about it, and then somehow went to Cassie's parents, and I think threatened to release some damaging information, and so they're like, no, don't.
That is the most horrible situation to be in. She was physically assaulted. She was, from what we understand, against her will to perform sexual acts.
Right.
And on top of that, you're going to go to her parents and blackmail them for money
and have them mortgage her home.
And he has millions and millions of dollars?
He's a monster. He's a pure monster. We do have our official attorney, Lisa Lanier, on the phone. Good morning, Lisa.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, this trial is something. I mean, the jurors are just horrified every day. It said that I read that the jurors are actually openly relieved when the questions are just ordinary, mundane questions. The courtroom erupted in laughter the other day because one of the lawyers said, I just have a few mundane questions, and they all were like, oh, thank goodness, and everybody started laughing because they're just constantly being traumatized by this. But yeah, the testimony from the mother, as you were saying, Cassie Ventura's mother, was that, number one, she documented the abuse with photographs of the bruising and stuff. And number two, she took out a home equity loan for $20,000 when Diddy was apparently blackmailing Ventura with this sex tape or sex tapes. And what it was, of course, he's, a billionaire. Why is he blackmailing her for $20,000?
Exactly.
He was mad. He was mad because she was dating somebody else, or he thought she was. And he had just recently spent about $20,000 on her. And then he learns that, she's with somebody else or whatever. And so he was like, hey, I just blew $20,000 on you. I want it back, or I'm releasing the sex tape.
But that's like blowing $2 in his,
right.
I mean, it feels like
just the point of it. It was the point of it just to hurt her and
intimidate.
But doesn't Cassie have money? Why is her parents having to do that? I thought Cassie had a lot of money. She had a huge hit.
Well, yeah, but she was totally under his control, including, every aspect of her life. It was, I don't think she had access to do anything independently. This is where she was breaking free, but I don't think she had a lot of money at that point. And her career was actually, even though she'd had a hit, I think it was actually hurt by him. It was because, she became his, right arm or whatever in public everywhere. And that was her job. The testimony has been from some of her friends and acquaintances that he would beat her over taking too long in the bathroom, not immediately picking up the phone when he called, talking to other men, including men in business contacts, like producers and things like that. He would see her talking. He would savagely beat her and drag her around the house by her hair. That was one of his favorite things to do, apparently, according to testimony. We have heard from his former personal assistant, and this is where, so the case that they're building is, because I know Jared had asked me, why this big focus at first on Cassie Ventura? That's to show the sex trafficking part of it, right? That's the element of she was being coerced into performing, it said that basically that she was drugged, she was beat, she was intimidated, and there were weapons everywhere. And so then the second part of it is the racketeering part, and that's to show that he used his businesses to further these illegal activities. And that's where this David James, his former personal assistant, came in, because he was saying, hey, look, I was on the payroll, and one of my jobs was to procure drugs for these freak-offs. The other was to book the hotels for these freak-offs. And he was talking about packing the overnight bag for Diddy to go to these freak-offs, and it had to always have at least $10,000 cash because he wanted to be able to tip people and purchase things and not have it show up on his company books, but it was company money. Oh. And so, he's tying in the business, and that's where you get racketeering. By the way, the overnight bag, Louis Vuitton, had Viagra, ecstasy, Percocet, the cash, condoms, and baby oil. Those were the essentials. for the freak off.
Right. It's everyone's.
Right.
That's everyone's overnight bag.
Yeah, but
Really?
Lisa,
Exactly.
we
Exactly.
a curious part I think me and Jared talked about is that we know. I think we understand that Cassie is definitely a witness, but we understood. We thought it would be a lot even more widespread, meaning Cassie and the abuse, the sexual abuse. And then the defense came in and it showed that Cassie texted him like, I love doing the freak offs, except when I don't want to. So there's some of that. What about these other players? Is it just going to be on Cassie, do you think? Or do you think that we're going to be shocked of other witnesses that come forward? Because or do you think this is all they got? That it's just the Cassie and that's it?
Well, for the prosecution's sake, I hope they have other witnesses that have some kind of similar experiences, because if they don't, I think that you have to worry a little bit that Combs is going to have some success with the consent defense. I mean, like there was a witness that went on in the last week who was a male exotic dancer, Sheree Hayes. His nickname is the Punisher. And he said, I know, right? He says that's not anything to do with his exotic dancing,
Sure.
but that it's a football reference that from his football days, but whatever. If you believe that.
Right.
But he said that Ventura was a willing participant. He never saw her coerced or upset or anything like that. So I think that hurt a little bit. And that was on cross-examination. And, today we're expecting to hear from personal chef Jordan Atkinson, who was terminated in some kind of a big uproar. We'll hear about that. It was alluded to by the personal assistant. And there was another friend that talked about, actually, I'm not sure if she was a friend. She was another of Diddy's clients, Dawn Richard, singer from Danity Kane, testified that she observed Combs brutally beating and kicking Ventura, dragging her around by her hair. And the next day, after this one incident, he gave them flowers and he threatened them and basically said, people who talk disappear.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you have mentioned before, that's not a direct threat. He's not going to say, hey, if you don't do this, I will kill you. He's just making in general, hey, people disappear. What does that mean? And also,
right.
As far as the beating of Cassie, what was horrific in the videos that we saw,
right.
That's more of a assault, domestic violence. I'm expecting like we're going to see like forced individual underage being that was a lot of the
rumors, at least.
Allegations.
Yeah. Right. And if this is all they have as far as the sex part, then I do think they're going to have some issues. I mean, clearly he's a bad dude, right? And was a domestic abuser, and he had a pretty significant drug problem, and he was a mess, right? And a bad mess. But you're right, that doesn't equate to sex trafficking, unless, now, and this is where, there's going to be, I think, some testimony probably from some experts about when someone is so controlled and, afraid to leave. And, like they told the story about how his people saw Suge Knight at a burger joint at 4:00 in the morning. And when they told Combs, he grabbed a bunch of guns and went over there to shoot him, and then then Suge Knight was gone by the time they got there. That's his personal assistant said that was a turning point for him, because he realized his life was in danger, because he realized that this was going to end up potentially going really south with guns and all the craziness.
Well, let me ask you this, Lisa, when it comes to sex trafficking, because there's some confusion for like at least on our part, at least for me, like if he, for example, if he flies in an adult who is a prostitute over state lines, is that like what constitutes sex trafficking?
So it typically involves someone who is being transported and procured for the purpose of illegal sexual activity. You don't typically see it with an at will, if you will, sort of prostitute. You typically see someone who has been forced to do it, and that's
kidnapped.
usually, it's usually, it usually involves, that there's no consent or free will on their part. Now, in the moment, it may seem like they're consenting because they are, beat down to the point of, they're afraid. A lot of times, like if I act like I'm not enjoying this, or if I displease this customer or whatever, I'm going to get beat or killed. And so they appear to be acquiescing and going along with it. And I think that's what the whole argument is going to be about Ventura is that when she said, I love this or whatever, I love you, whatever, that she was trying to please him because she was afraid of him. And, and if she can show that she was that controlled, and you can use drugs to control people, which I think he did, and intimidation, threats of violence, actual violence. I mean, you see all of that in this situation. So it'll be interesting. I mean, if the jury says she was consenting to all of it, though, then that's a big problem if they don't have anything more.
Has your experience been when the feds bring charges, they usually have a pretty airtight case?
Yeah, they usually do. I mean, so I'm thinking maybe she's just the start. She's kind of a strong start because they have that video, of him beating her in the hotel, and I think that it's just some powerful, really, really powerful stuff. But we'll see. I mean, they better have something else.
Well, and apparently he filmed everything, and they seized all this stuff. Maybe there's going to be a lot of incriminating evidence, and I guess we're just surprised, and maybe they're keeping their powder dry for the time being.
Yeah.
With some of these major celebrities. I mean, I know Usher and Neo were mentioned in the fact that they were at different they were at places where and witnessed Diddy beating multiple women, and they didn't say anything, and we're not judging them for that because it's like, I don't know, it's just so complicated with intimidation and being scared or just not knowing what to do. But I thought maybe there will be.
Yeah,
I don't know, and the jury's seen a lot of stuff that we don't 100% know what the content of it was because they've been shown, and they say that the jurors, their faces just tell the story that they're just horrified.
Yeah. But
and so
some of the
horrified,
some of the horrific. This is what I'm worried about, where he could get off. If some of the sexual acts and what they were doing, it may be bizarre to people, maybe like shocking to people, but that's not illegal if if they can't prove the forcefulness of it. When I was at P. Diddy's house that time,
we've been telling you, don't say it.
Well, this is what I noticed, though. I was literally at his house on Star Island. It was a Ciroc party that he was promoting his Ciroc liquor, and we were asked to leave after the Super Bowl was over. We watched the Super Bowl, but there was a lot of other big-name celebrities there, including
Russell Simmons.
And they looked like, when I saw P. Diddy and talking with, and I think it was Eclipse, maybe one of those rappers, allegedly, I forget, but they looked like they were extremely good friends the way they were talking with P. Diddy and him. Like they would talk like almost in secret. Where are these other? Do you think that we're going to see these other big celebrities all of a sudden get charged, or is this it? He's getting charged, and then the other people are just witnesses.
Yeah, I think the other people are just going to be witnesses because I think the key was that he was orchestrating the whole thing and that they're going to claim, that they didn't know that these people weren't consenting to it. They didn't know they were being coerced and that sort of thing. I don't think their end game is to get people who were caught up in it. I think they just want to get the mastermind and the orchestrator.
And in your experience, Lisa, we're talking to our official official attorney Lisa Lanier. We don't have an official Latina. We should look into that. Lisa Lanier, has your experience been when it comes to if they have a witness list, the prosecution, does that have to be already turned over to the defense, and wouldn't that already leak that we know, they're going to call Jay-Z or Beyonce, or you know what I mean? Is that?
I mean, they should already know,
okay.
Who's going to be called, but I think they're keeping a pretty tight lid on it. I don't think they're leaking a lot of stuff, and they're name dropping right now. Like I think this week they name dropped Britney Spears, or late last week, that she was at one of these parties, and I think it was actually Cassie's birthday party, and she and her producer showed up, and there wasn't any allegation that Britney Spears knew anything or did anything, but it was just sort of a name drop, I think, that they were throwing in the air.
Okay. Real quick, though, I believe that the majority of people were expecting other big name celebrities that were involved in the pressure and the coercion and would be charged. And a lot of those rumors were like a Jay-Z or something. And even the Justin Bieber thing, I think a lot of people thought he was a part of at least the abuse part of it. And we've seen nothing of the sorts.
Well, it's going to be a very long trial, so there's a lot to come. But yeah, you would think that by now we would have heard more, especially if somebody was going to be charged. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, sometimes they see, let's do a test run on the big dog, and if we can't get him, we certainly can't get anybody else.
I see. All right. Well, thank you for going through it, because it is it's more complicated than it seems on the surface when you start, for strategies and what's the Cassie angle, which I do think is powerful. And they're getting across the narrative that this guy is a monster, with abuse of all kinds, emotional, verbal, physical, sexual. So, all right, Lisa, she's awesome. Thank you so much. If you're ever injured, contact her right away at hireaheavyweight.com.